and Heidi Toffler's Creating a New Civilization, the Politics of the Third Wave. Some of the quotes from that book include nationalism as the first wave. The globalization of business and finance required by advancing third wave economies routinely punctures the national sovereignty the nationalists hold so dear. Obviously part of the larger globalist plan. Also a quote from that book, the Constitution of the United States needs to be reconsidered and altered to create a whole new structure of government, building a third wave civilization on the wreckage of second wave institutions involves the design of new, more appropriate political structures. The system that served us so well must in its turn die and be replaced. The system they want is rule by elitists and basically little people doing the minion work at best. Now, of course, Newt supported NAFTA, GATT, other United Nations and globalist treaties. He was an advisor for Freddie Mac before they went kaput. And of course, he's a member of Bohemian Grove, the Council on Foreign Relations, and an open border advocate. And so in other open border news, I covered this morning. Secret U.S.-Canada border deal hides GMO takeover. Now, this is a beyond borders, border security perimeter deal that Harper and Obama have been secretly working on for more than a year. I covered it back in April. Now they're set to sign the deal, still secret at this point in time, next week, at which point it'll become, I guess, treaty law. Now, this bill is significant. Of course, obviously, it's part of the larger North American Union deal that was leaked, that was also pursued in secrecy, started during the George W. Bush administration in 2005. They've had a number of meetings since then, and Harper's been part of this all along. Now, it would merge a large portion of law enforcement and terrorism efforts, allowing Canadians to work on the U.S. side of the border, U.S. personnel to work on the Canadian side of the border. It would also up and legitimize biometric checks at the border, and it would justify surveillance, quote, track everyone coming and leaving Canada by air, land, and sea, giving that power to the United States authorities. But there's more to this secret agreement, and the parts that are known about it because it was leaked to the press. We currently don't know everything about this 32-point border perimeter plan. What's lying in plain sight here is that they also plan to, quote, streamline and harmonize regulations in the automotive and food sectors. Now, this is very significant, especially the food sector portion, because it would probably, most likely, many observers believe, open up Canada to a total assault from the biotechnology companies, Monsanto chief among them. The Council of Canadians reports that what kind of regulatory alignment might we expect to see as a result of the Beyond the Border Action Plan? The Biotechnology Industry Association asked that both countries adopt consistent science-based processes that would significantly decrease the time required for authorization of biotech crops and their products. They've asked for a harmonization of the maximum permissible pesticide residual levels. And again, many Canadians, farmers and activists among them, have successfully repelled a lot of Monsanto's biotech products from being introduced into the company. They fought back against bovine growth hormone, GM alfalfa, and have gotten an investigation into the pesticides. But the biggest pushback was against GM wheat, one of Canada's biggest exports, and that victory came at the hand of the Canadian Wheat Board, which, by the way, was just dismantled earlier this week in time for the Trans-Pacific Pact trade talks. So you've got Canada and the U.S. working on a bilateral open borders trade deal, part of the North American Union. Meanwhile, they're working in the Asian sector for this Trans-Pacific Partnership, all to do these so-called free trade deals, which are not free at all. They create trade blocks. If you don't become a member, then you're essentially discriminated against for your exports. So it's all very interesting. They say the wheat board's probably just the beginning. They're going to go after the dairy and egg boards as well. They won't be satisfied until Viterra and Cargill and Monsanto control every bit of farmland in this country. That's a statement from Member of Parliament Romeo Saganash. Now, these boards in Canada are very socialistic, but at the same time, tariffs are not necessarily socialistic. They're historically part of the American experiment as well. Makes sense, but it's something all this free trade and globalization has sought to do away with or significantly limit. And one more thing about GMO introduction in Canada is the other issue of low-level presence of GM contamination. They are also separately seeking to legitimize the export of crops which are genetically modified and banned in certain countries, such as places in Europe where they will not accept these crops. They're now trying to pressure them to accept low-level contaminated GMO crops, a dangerous, slippery slope towards total introduction of GM crops. Right now, by the way, there's about 30 commercial GM crops. By 2015, a European Commission study estimates there will be more than 120 GMO crops, something to keep an eye on. In financial news, a very significant headline story here. A bank courier van spills money on the roadway in Upper St. Clair, and the police have tried to round up the money after the public grabbed it, and they recovered only $400 out of tens of thousands. The police have issued a statement saying this is not a free-for-all situation. Obviously, this money is bank property. Lieutenant Englert said police intend to give people a reasonable amount of time to come to their senses and return any money they might have taken. After that, they could charge people with theft. But you don't see that treatment on Wall Street or outside the Federal Reserve with all these secret agreements, loans, and outright theft. Also in the news, Naomi Prenz's article published today, the Fed's European Rescue, another backdoor U.S. Bank Goldman bailout, where there was more than $7.7 trillion with a T of bank subsidies given to various European banks. And that's just another part of this larger looting that's going to come with the economic collapse. Also, you heard about the MF Global story where they came up short on their European bets, and suddenly the pension money and bank accounts from their customers went missing. Well, now one of the executives from MF Global, who resigned, by the way, in September before the company went bankrupt, has landed a new job. He's a pension manager now on Wall Street. New York City Comptroller John Liu has hired former chief executive of MF Global Holdings to help develop and manage the city's pension investments. MF Global was sued by 4 public pension systems outside New York that claim the firm misrepresented its risk management practices to investors. But now one of those executives has a new cozy job. That would be Kevin Davis, who was quietly hired back in September. Another interesting angle. Now, the Fukushima situation continues to be severe. TEPCO again underplays severity of situation at Fukushima, writes Kurt Nimmo today, bringing up how the Tokyo Electric Power Company is once again trying to mislead the public on the severity of the situation at the crippled Fukushima nuclear plant in Japan. The government is also actively working to sweep the disaster under the rug. Its Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare recently eliminated Fukushima data from a patient survey it conducts every 3 years, according to the Fukushima Diary. According to the survey, leukemia cases have been increasing 7-fold over the last year, the highest rate since 1978. But there's nothing to see here. Find out who took the banknotes from the road when the truck spilled them out. Now, in other news, there's a new sex scandal. Feds charged 20 with luring illegal immigrants to work in the New York area strip clubs. They're saying it was mob-run with Italian and Russian mobs who arranged sham marriages to bring Eastern European and other illegal immigrants into the country and to work as strippers and exotic dancers. And it doesn't mention prostitution here, but I would imagine that's waiting in the wings. Now, sure, that's a bad scandal. There is lots of illicit mob and sex trade activity going on, especially in that part of the world. It spills over to here, but that's kind of the small part of the iceberg that's above the water level. The large, massive, important part of the iceberg is well below the surface, the thing nobody likes to talk about, but you've heard about it on this program before. Stuff like the homosexual prostitution inquiry that ensnared VIPs within the Reagan and Bush administration, call boys took midnight tour of the White House. You heard about the gay porn stars serving moguls, including at places like Bohemian Grove. Chad Savage, a guy who later would visit the George W. Bush White House. All of us valets in the Grove are tittering about it, says our Bohemian blabbermouth, to think there's all these powerful conservative guys having their drinks and food served to them by a gay porn star. He makes their beds and attends to their every need, and they have no idea who he really is. Of course, even that's just the tip of the iceberg to all the terrible and satanic sexual slavery stuff going on, including in political circles. There's, of course, all the stuff to do with Penn State and Syracuse, the accusations going on there of molestations and rape. So obviously there's much more going on than just a few strippers at a New York club, but that's the way the news goes. Now, coming up, we have an important group of guests. They are the filmmakers who help bring you What in the World Are They Spraying? It's Paul Wittenberger and his cohort Chris Maple. They are here to interview Alex Jones for their upcoming film, The Great Culling. So we'll speak with them in just a moment. Stay tuned. We'll be back after this break.
If you believe in this information and want to support its viral spread, go to the Infowars store at Infowars.com. We've got the new G.I. Joe Infowars t-shirts. We've got the incredible Pro Pure gravity-fed filters available at Infowars.com in the store. We've got a new DVD, Scientists Under Attack, the Don't Tread on Me flag. We've got all sorts of different bumper stickers to help spread the rebellion virally. It's all there, wristbands, citizen rule books in every order. Order online at Infowars.com today. The water filters, the canteens, it's all there. Infowars.com.
And we are back from break on this first transmission of December 2001 on the Infowars Nightly News. We're joined now by two filmmakers producing The Great Culling. It is a follow-up to What in the World Are They Spraying? Great film on the geoengineering and chemtrail phenomenon. We have it here at the Infowars store. That is director Paul Wittenberg, and he is joined by first-time filmmaker, right, Chris Maple?
That's right.
Thanks for coming on, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Of course. So tell us about the previous film and how it led to the new project.
Well, we finished up What in the World Are They Spraying last year around this time, and we started with this new film, The Great Culling, immediately after. So it's going great. We're just finished up shooting the rest of the interviews, and we're going to go into post and finish this up real quick.
What got us really going into The Great Culling, we did once What in the World Are They Spraying was completed. We kept hearing these the resonation of heavy metal contamination in the air, and we were doing research with the water as well and the fluoride, and again we keep hearing these. The aluminum kept resonating, and it's what got us going with The Great Culling. Because with The Great Culling, in addition to the air, we're also looking at the water as well as the food. So our three essential, life-supporting, components. And so in addition to that, we wanted to focus on the neurological disorders and how they relate to these heavy metal contaminations that are going on today.
Certainly. And you're covering stuff like fluoride, you're covering all the stuff in the vaccines, and really kind of the modern way of life where cancer is almost an expectation or a one out of several kind of deal. And so what are you guys finding? Are there important tie-ins with political dimensions? Does it relate back to this geoengineering plan you've covered so extensively?
I mean, politics does play a role, what we're learning, because at first we weren't completely sure whether or not, this is a big accident or whether there's some design involved here, and that's one thing that we wanted to uncover. And we have. We're finding the deeper we go down the rabbit hole that, there is deceit that is taking place. As far as the, you mentioned vaccinations, that was what really got us going. Personally, myself, it was seeing these children who are being injured. I believe back in 1983, it was when the vaccination schedule went from 10 to 36. I believe it's now 60-something that the kids are taking. And it wasn't until 1986 that the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act was put into place. And what bothered me the most with that act was that it didn't look at the injured. What it did was protect the manufacturers. So there you have that, corporation is being looked after prior to the people.